Okay, everybody. So today on Autoimmune Rehab, I am happy to be able to interview Dr. Jennifer Schlueter. I might be mispronouncing that name, and she'll correct me in a minute here. And she's going to talk about a really interesting topic today. So she's going to talk about the combinations of some things related to trauma, mind, body, spirit healing, as well as your just different things related to that, the subconscious, hypnosis, different things like that. And we've covered a lot of those topics individually, but not together. So why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself? Who are you and what brings you on to Autoimmune Rehab today?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Jennifer Schlueter, and you pronounced it quite good. And I was born and raised in Germany, and then I went to the US and I studied there and I got a job there. And it was quite a nice job. It was a good job, but eventually I kind of felt unfulfilled. I didn't feel that great, and I kind of wanted more out of it. And because I felt that way in my personal life, I made some really bad decisions with guys and alcohol. So yeah, my life went a little bit downhill. And then my friend was like, "Hey, Jenny, you should try my hypnotherapist." And I said, "Okay, let me try. I don't know what it's going to be like, but let me try." And I went to the hypnotherapist, and I just remembered that she put all of my bad things and bad stuff into a hot air balloon and let it fly off. That's all I remember, nothing else. But the next morning after that hypnosis session, I woke up and I had decided to quit my job and travel the world. So for me, hypnosis had such a huge impact on the first session already that I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to study it. And so in 2018, I did study it, and I've had a lot of clients since then, and a lot of them came to me with physical things, like 50 years of physical tension. One of them was trying to get pregnant, but she had like 3 miscarriages. Another one came to me with back pain, and within one session, it was gone. And then after the one session, this one lady was pregnant, and after the one session, this one lady got rid of 50 years of tension. So I was like, I really enjoy this topic, the topic of really releasing physical pain. And my friend was like, well, why don't you try endometriosis? And why don't you try helping women with that? Because I know a lot of women with that, and I just want to see if you can help them. And I said, okay, let me see. And it so happened that one of her friends signed up for the program with me, or for one session, just one session, not even a program, just one session. And after that one session, so before the session, she had PMS to the point where she was annoying her husband every single month, where he was like, oh my God, like the symptoms are so bad. And it was not good for the relationship. And then she also had intense period pain, and there was just a lot that she was dealing with. So after that one session, she just simply laid in bed next to her husband and was like, hey, I'm on my period. And he was like, what? Just like that? You were just on your period? Like there's nothing that warned me before? And she was like, no, I have no more PMS symptoms. And then also she went dancing on the first day of her period on her second cycle, which was unheard of before. So it's like I could see the success and I could see the ease of how it was working for me, so that I decided to actually dive deeper into this in my PhD dissertation, where I took 5 women with endometriosis and also helped them through hypnosis and finding the emotional root cause.
Wow, that's a lot. And I mean, that sounds really amazing. And like I said, I've interviewed a few other people that have used hypnosis to help with their healing, and one that actually now is a hypnotherapist after her experience with healing her lupus through hypnotherapy and hypnosis. So tell us a little bit, give us your description of hypnosis, because I know a lot of people have different descriptions. So tell us, how do you define hypnosis personally?
Yes, my shortest description is magic and miracles, because so much can happen in hypnosis. But how I would actually define it is as a relaxed form of healing. I would say that. Short and sweet.
Okay, I like that. I like that for sure. So tell us a little bit more. So you did this research study on these women with Endometriosis. I always have a hard time pronouncing that word. And how did you do that as a scholarly research? Because I find that really interesting, because it's not really, you don't really view hypnosis and scholarly research in the same sentence a lot of times.
So I actually have I want to clarify that I have a PhD in spiritual healing, and they have allowed us to do any type of research. So I did a case study. It was not like a medical research, but it was a case study. So I took these 5 women and I gave them an intake form, and I asked them several questions about the symptoms they had, the amount of pain that they have on a scale from 1 to 10, what they have tried before, and if they were open to do hypnosis to heal that. And then I did a process of 1 to 3 sessions, depending on the person and depending on how much they needed, because one of them was like, after 1 session, she was like, oh, I'm good, fine. And then others, they were like, yeah, I actually would like 3 sessions. And then after, I took another form and I asked them again, how much pain do you have on a scale from 1 to 10? Which symptoms do you still have? And 4 out of 5 have completely decrease their symptoms, completely decrease their scale of pain, and also really increase their emotional well-being, because it was the first time that they had ever let go of the emotional root cause of their endometriosis. And so hypnosis, funny enough, is only in medical research when it's about pain. For example, there's people who use hypnosis if some people are allergic to anesthesia, so people use hypnosis to actually get into a relaxed state of mind so people can operate on them, do surgery on them. Some people do it for themselves and other people have a hypnotherapist. Then there's hypnobirthing in context with that as well, which also just makes sure that the pregnant woman is calmer and has a more pleasant birth, as pleasant as that can be, right? And then there's also research on hypnosis really decreasing pain and anxiety. However, there was no research that I have found where with hypnosis, you went to the emotional root cause or the psychological root cause of somebody's symptoms and pain and condition, released that, and then saw, okay, not only did I decrease symptoms and pain and increased emotional well-being, but I also feel lighter, like something left my body. And so that's what I did. And I want to really get into an actual medical research. I'm putting this out in the universe. It's going to happen somehow. And I want to make sure that I get this out to more people because it's so powerful.
Yeah, that's true for sure. Yeah, and absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the other lady that came on and talked about hypnosis, she talked about how she got introduced to it by learning about it in the context of, some of the studies out there on releasing pain. I believe there's also studies out there, or at least people that have had good experience with getting over addiction. So like specifically people that have addictions to cigarettes and alcohol, things like that kind of stuff. So, it's a lot of people when they hear of hypnosis, they think all this woo-woo, like put you in a trance type thing, but that's really not what we're talking about. We're talking about using this to, like you said, actually help with your emotional pain, and then as a result with your physical pain. So talk to us a little bit about your experience with the combination of the mind, body, and we could also say spirit healing, the mind, body, and spirit healing, because I know a lot of people don't realize that when you have physical symptoms, whether it's pain or whatever, there's also, some additional emotional things, whether it's trauma or some other kind of emotional things behind that. And, you don't just randomly get physical pain for no reason, usually, especially if it's ongoing and chronic.
Absolutely. So I am a big believer, and this may sound suspicious to some people, and some people may not believe it, but I'm a big believer, and I've read the research of people who have researched how emotional trauma, emotions that have been stuck in the body for years, decades even, or even half a century sometimes, how that is causing pain and physical symptoms. So there is research on that. And there's also research on that this trauma and emotions, they're also impacting the immune system, right? And they're impacting immune system function. This has all been proven, but there are people who are very skeptical about that because they have so much pain and they're trying to find something and nothing helps. So it's very hard to say, hey, this is not something I found. This has existed for a long time, but would you be open to try it? So, and I feel like there's still quite a lot of resistance in there, especially when it comes to past lives, or when it comes to something from your ancestors. If you look into the study of epigenetics, this tells you that your pain or your symptoms can even come from generations before you and what they've been through and their trauma. And if you look at, I'm giving this book on every podcast because it's so good. So there's a therapist who looked at the symptoms and the pain that every single one of his patients had. And then he wrote down the corresponding emotional root cause, what they've worked through. It is called the Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases. And whenever I have a pain, whether it's an earache, a stomach ache, I look into this book and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so true. It is actually, it is so fascinating, and it gives me goosebumps every single time. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's by Jacques Martel. It's really, really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll link to that in the show notes so that people can check it out. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but there is actually another book that I have that's pretty similar. It's called The Body Code by Dr. Brian, or Dr. I'm looking at it over here. Bradley Nelson, and he's actually like the creator of the emotion code, which is like a form of like an energy healing type thing.
Ah, okay. I haven't heard of that one. That's also great to know.
Kind of a similar type of concept that each part of your body that has, whether it's some kind of pain or some kind of a problem, that there's an emotion connected to that, and try to figure out what that emotion is so that you can then, learn how to release that and therefore help ease your physical pain, your physical symptoms. So yeah.
Exactly. And how accurate have you been finding that one?
I found it really depends. I think I'm one of those people that, I definitely think that there's, the emotions and the physical have connections a lot of times. I still have a tendency to sometimes feel like sometimes you need to use other methods as well, and I'm kind of a fan of the combination of you pulling different energy things along with changing your diet, along with, supplementation, along with other things, and not just saying, okay, this is just going to be a magic fix and this is the only solution to the problem. But I feel like a lot more people have, like you said, those trapped emotions and those trauma that they just don't realize are there, and can even expand to other things like, like your lack of forgiveness towards other people, your attitudes towards people that have done things to you that maybe they shouldn't have, and you're continuing to harbor that, and that as a result is causing you a lot of pain and other issues.
Absolutely. And I want to share something because I just came back from something. So it's called myoreformation. And it's a form of therapy where somebody really digs deep into your body until past the muscles, but into the fascia. And whenever they dig there, at certain body parts, something comes out, right? And you will scream, you will cry. And it's not more painful than on another body part, but you will have so much more emotion associated with that. And for anyone who is a little bit skeptical about emotions being stuck in the body, I invite them to try a therapy like this. A therapy that works with the body, a therapy that is connected to or that connects body and mind, where you can actually see like, oh, okay, there's something to it. Like I'm crying because this person is touching my clavicle or my forearm or something, So it's quite interesting.
For sure. And I think there's a form of massage that does that too, like myofascial or something massage or whatever, that's designed to help release that too. So yeah. There's definitely more and more, I think, of the research of that kind of stuff coming out there. And yeah, I hope you do get to do the actual medical research on it, because that would be really interesting for a lot of people. Would probably help some people that are just like, no, there's absolutely nothing to it, not going to try it at all, So.
Yes, I'm so excited. I know I will do it at some point. And I also want to get other diseases and ailments as well, and see and show people, hey, this is not just endometriosis. This is for anything that you have. So I'm really excited to bring this forward eventually.
For sure. So another question you had me ask that we haven't really, we've kind of touched on it, but haven't discussed it really too much, is what do you feel like the main things are that can happen when people just they experience some sort of trauma and they just kind of stuff it down, dismiss it, say, oh, it's not a big deal, and they just try to move on?
That's a great question. So I will say that especially for us women, it'll be the overdoing. Like, I can do it, I can handle it, I don't need anyone else. I'm not going to ask for help. I'm not going to ask for support. I can do it. The hyper independence. It'll be the people pleasing. also for us, especially for us women, which is just like stuffing down my anger about what this person said, instead of, you know, speaking my truth, not in an angry way even, but just like speaking my truth and speaking out what I think. And it's also a disconnection from your body, meaning that, you know, there could be anything in your body. You go to the doctor and they're like, ah, you're fine. But then you're like, I know something is wrong. So there is a little bit of connection with your body, but there's not enough connection to help you see what it actually is or help you get rid of this. And then there's a disconnection with people as well, because people who have had a lot of trauma and who've had to go through a lot of things, also they're disconnecting from people because they don't trust people anymore, which is a natural thing, right? So this happens a lot as well, and I see this a lot.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, and they say that, and statistics prove it as well, that that's one of the reasons why a lot more women get autoimmune conditions than men, is because as women we have a tendency to take it all in and to try to do everything for everybody else and not take care of ourselves, and yeah, it backfires on us by our body attacking itself physically. So yeah.
Absolutely. And also for us women, especially, the womb is the center of creation, not literally only as it can birth children, but also the center of creation in a creative aspect. So no, it doesn't mean you can draw yourself healthy, but it means that you're consuming too much. You're consuming too much. You're probably tired too, you know, if you're people pleasing, if you're doing all the things for anybody else, then instead of creating for yourself, instead of taking care of yourself and letting out your feelings, or creating art or dancing, having fun, right? Even having joy. Instead of doing that, you're not expressing yourself creatively. And that comes back to the womb as well. And this is something else that I found with endometriosis as well. There was an artist and she could not create because she didn't feel worthy of creating anymore because she had endometriosis.
Wow. Yeah, so then how did she like get out of that? Did you work with her on the hypnotherapy and
Yes.
that kind of stuff? Or okay.
Yes. So we used hypnosis, breathwork, and EFT, and then we eventually got through that. It made her feel really unworthy with her art. And as soon as we shifted that, as soon as we were like, even though you have pain, and even though you may feel like shit a few days of the week or something, you are still worthy of creating. You're still worthy of creating songs, or you're still worthy of creating writings or poems or whatever it is that you're creating, right? Like, you're still worthy of that and you can still do that. And these are going to be, because some of the women, they're like, I don't know if this is going to be good enough if I create from a place like that, but it is good enough.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we need to start valuing our contributions and our self-worth and everything else a lot more, for sure. So what should somebody know if they're sitting here, they're thinking, okay, you know, I've had this pain forever, I've had this, I've had that, I want to try to see if hypnotherapy can help me. What should somebody know about it before they just go willy-nilly and go find somebody to help them do it?
So I will always say that find somebody who's experienced in what it is that you're looking for. So specifically mind-body connection, find somebody who you trust. So look at their social media. If they have social media, find somebody that you trust, where you like the energy. Like, you have to be able to vibe with that person. You have to see like, oh, I really like their energy and I'm sure they can help me. Like, there is a feeling inside of you that says, hey, this is the person I want to work with. And I really want you to trust that feeling. And also wait. If you have to wait, don't make this decision out of a high or out of a low, right? If you have to wait it out and then trust your gut eventually. And work with someone, like I said, yeah, who's experienced, and work with someone also who works. This is the most important one, works with the mind and the body, because some hypnotherapists, they only work with the mind. But also work with someone who knows what to do with the body, because the emotions and the trauma are stuck in the body. So the hypnotherapist needs to know how to use his or her tools to get that out.
Yeah, that's a good point, for sure. So tell us a little bit about how you work. You work virtually, so you have like a website or something that people can go learn a little more about you and they can reach out if they want to.
Yes, absolutely. So I have a website and it's called www.mindyoursubconscious.com. I have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, so you can literally find me anywhere. TikTok as well. And then I also have a lot of free meditations, guided hypnosis, guided things, and all of that online. And then you can already get a feel for me and see how you like it.
Awesome, cool. Okay, so we will link your website below. We'll probably find a link to at least one of the guided meditations and link it, because that would probably be helpful to people. And we'll probably link your Instagram. And then, if people want to find other thing on other places, they can go looking elsewhere too. So tell us a little bit. The last question I always like to ask people, or maybe I should ask you first, anything else that you feel like I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
I want to mention that, especially if you're a woman listening to this, and if you've been finding yourself in this conversation, like, oh yeah, I people please, oh yeah, I do too much and stuff, I just want to say, like, put the focus back on you and ask yourself before anything else in the day, like, what would make me happy today? What would bring me joy today? And go do that thing. And really schedule time in your calendar, alone time that you don't have to take care of anyone else. Like, really schedule that time in and make sure you fill your cup before anyone else's, because I know as women, we want to take care of the whole village, but we want to give before our own cup is full. But it's better to give from an overflowing cup than from a half empty, as cliche as it sounds, but it's just a reminder.
Awesome. That's great. I love that for sure. So the last question I always like to ask every guest that comes here on Autoimmune Rehab is this: if you could go back in time to, let's say, before you really knew what hypnotherapy was, or maybe you'd heard of it, but you definitely weren't a practicing hypnotherapist at that time. You hadn't experienced the healing for yourself and the healing that you've experienced for a lot of your clients. What is one thing you know now that you wish you had known then that you would tell yourself?
I wish I could have known that anything is possible if I set my mind to it.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's a great way to end it. Anything is possible if you set your mind to it. Okay, well, thanks so much, Dr. Jennifer, for coming on. And like I said, we will be linking your information, contact, website, all that stuff below. So if you are at all interested or can relate it all to what she said, please reach out and let her see how she can help you.
Thank you so much for having me, Anna. And thank you so much for putting out your podcast and for your work as well.
Absolutely.